All right, let's dive in. Today we're looking at Greta Thunberg's climate book,
Oh, wow.
specifically the first article.
Okay.
It's like a mission statement for the whole book, really sets the stage.
Nicey.
And this book is a collection of essays from like leading experts on the climate crisis.
Right, right.
It's a big deal.
Yeah, and the Online Climate Change Academy of Pakistan is actually releasing a podcast on every single article.
I know. Can you believe that?
All 100 of them.
Ambitious.
Each week, a new one drops.
Wow.
So this first article, Greta doesn't mess around. She comes right out and says, the climate and ecological crisis is the greatest threat that humanity has ever faced.
That's a strong statement.
No kidding, but she backs it up,
Right.
with science.
Well, yeah, the evidence is there.
And she ties it right into sustainability, says it's not some kind of spectrum like...
You're either sustainable or you're not.
Exactly. It's like, boom, black and white.
Makes you think.
She uses this analogy, walking on thin ice.
Oh, I like that. Right. No middle ground there. You either stay up top or you fall through.
And with the planet, nobody's coming to fish us out.
Exactly. And that makes me think, are we really doing enough to stay on top of this ice? Because Greta points out there's this gap between what world leaders say and what they actually do.
Oh, you mean like all the talk about climate action, but not much real change happening?
That's it. That's where the greenwashing comes in, right? Making things seem eco-friendly when they're really not.
Yeah. Nations love to claim they're leading the charge, but without actually, implementing the tough changes.
It's like putting a Band-Aid on a huge wound. It looks like you're doing something, but...
But you're ignoring the real problem.
Exactly.
And the thing is, this isn't just about cutting emissions. It's much bigger.
It's a whole sustainability crisis. Right?
With all these interconnected challenges like, melting ice shelves, economic inequality, it's a whole mess.
Like a puzzle where the pieces keep moving.
That's a good way to put it. So where do we even begin to tackle something this big?
Well, Greta says knowledge is key.
An informed public, right.
Yeah. People who understand the issue are more likely to push for change.
Demand action from those in charge.
And that's where her book comes in, with all these different experts weighing in.
Giving us the information we need.
It's like she's saying, here's the truth. Now let's work together to figure it out.
And that figuring it out part, it brings up some big questions, like what are we really trying to solve here?
Is it just emissions, or do we need to, rethink our whole way of life?
Our values, our priorities, everything.
That is a big question. And especially when you look at how uneven carbon emissions are around the world.
Right, like the richest 1% producing more than double the emissions of the poorest 50%.
Seriously. More than double.
It's pretty shocking.
Makes you wonder who really needs hope in this situation, doesn't it?
It does.
And what does progress even mean when you think about how we outsource emissions, to other countries?
Through manufacturing and trade and all that.
Yeah, we get to say we're reducing emissions here while ignoring the impact of what we're consuming.
It's a tricky thing.
It feels like we're just rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic, honestly.
We need to look beyond the surface, dig into individual responsibility and per capita emissions. And
Hold on. Per capita emissions? What's that?
so per capita emissions, it's the average amount of CO2 each person emits.
In a specific country or area, right?
Yeah. To hit our climate goals, we need to get that down to about 1 ton of CO2 per person per year.
1 ton. Seriously.
It's a tough target, for sure.
What are we at now, in different countries, just to get an idea?
Well, in Sweden, it's around 9 tons per person.
Okay, and what about the U.S.?
17.1 tons.
Whoa, that's a lot.
Canada's at 15.4, Australia 14.9, China's at 6.6.
Those are some big numbers.
They are, and that's not even counting biogenic emissions, like from burning wood.
Reaching 1 ton, that seems almost impossible.
It's a massive challenge. It requires systemic change, not just individual actions.
Like a total overhaul of our energy systems, transportation, agriculture.
It's a big undertaking.
I'm starting to feel a little pessimistic here. Can we really make those changes fast enough?
It's a valid concern, but it's not too late to join the climate movement. We can still be pioneers, like Greta says. Every action, every voice adds to the movement for change.
So we shouldn't just wait for someone else to fix it.
Yeah.
We each have a part to play.
Exactly. And there are so many ways to act. Make sustainable choices in your life, advocate for policy changes, support green businesses, join a climate group.
But sometimes I feel like what I do is just a drop in the bucket. Does it really matter if I recycle or use less energy?
Think of it this way. Each drop adds to the ocean. When millions of people make those small changes, the impact adds up, and it's not just about the direct effect, it's also about sending a message.
I get you. When we choose sustainable options, we're telling businesses and governments we want change. We're creating a shift towards a more sustainable way of life.
Exactly. It's like voting with your actions in your wallet. And while that's crucial, Greta's book is clear that we need system-wide change too.
So we need policies that back up sustainable practices, regulations that hold corporations accountable, and investments in renewable energy and green tech.
It's a two-pronged approach, changes from individuals and changes from institutions.
Bottom up and top down.
Exactly. And that's why being informed is so important, understanding how complex the climate crisis is and how everything connects.
We can't just focus on emissions alone. We have to see how sustainability ties into social justice, economic equality, and even human rights.
You got it, because climate change is global, but it doesn't hit everyone the same way.
Right. The people who are already marginalized and vulnerable, they're the ones who feel the impacts the most,
Yeah.
and they're often the ones who contributed the least to the problem.
It's true. So this isn't just about saving the planet. It's about making a fairer world for everyone.
That's what makes the climate movement so powerful. It's not just survival. It's about building a better future for everyone, recognizing how interconnected we are, and that our well-being depends on the planet's well-being.
It all comes back to knowledge. The more we understand about this crisis, the better we can be part of the solution.
Which is why things like that podcast series from the Online Climate Change Academy of Pakistan are so important. They're making this information available to everyone, empowering people to learn to get involved and to take action.
It's awesome that they're covering all 100 articles in Greta's book, a deep dive into every single one.
It shows how dedicated they are to raising awareness and helping people understand the climate crisis better.
For sure.
So we've talked about individual action system, the need for knowledge, and how everything's connected. As we finish up with this first article, what are the most important things you'd want our listeners to take away?
I think the biggest thing is that this isn't a time to give up or do nothing. It's time for action based on knowledge, for working together, and for demanding change from everyone.
Not letting pessimism drag us down, but realizing how urgent things are, and that even small actions can be part of a bigger movement.
And even though the challenges are huge, our ability to innovate, collaborate, and change is even bigger.
It's amazing how Greta brings together these seemingly unrelated things like fashion economics, food systems, and shows how they all contribute to this larger sustainability crisis.
It's a real wake-up call, pushing us to rethink our whole relationship with the planet and with each other.
Yeah, it makes you realize that it's not just about using paper straws instead of plastic or driving electric cars. It's about getting to the root of why things are unsustainable in the first place, like it's built into the system.
It really makes you think, if we agree that the climate crisis is part of this bigger sustainability crisis, then how do we even start to fix it? Do individual actions even make a difference if the whole system needs to change?
It's a huge question, and it can feel kind of overwhelming, like where do we even begin?
Well, I think it starts with understanding that both individual actions and systemic change are important, like our choices, when millions of people make them, can create a shift that forces those in power to make changes from top down.
So it's like a two-pronged attack.
Yeah.
We change our habits while also pushing for policies that support sustainability on a bigger scale.
Exactly. It's individual responsibility, working alongside collective action. And it's also about seeing that this isn't just an environmental thing. It's tied up with social justice, economic fairness, and even human rights.
Because climate change affects everyone, but not everyone equally, right?
The people who are already struggling, the ones who contributed the least to this problem, they often end up facing the worst consequences.
So finding solutions means building a fairer world for everyone, not just cutting emissions.
You got it. And that's what's so inspiring about the climate movement. It's not just about saving the planet. It's about building a better future for everyone.
This deep dive has really given me a lot to think about. If we can shift our thinking and see the climate crisis as part of a bigger sustainability crisis, it opens up a whole new way of looking for solutions.
It's about tackling those root causes and realizing that solutions won't come from just one person or one organization. It takes all of us working together, sharing what we know, questioning what we think we know, and demanding change.
And if anyone wants to learn more about all this, I highly recommend checking out that podcast series from the Online Climate Change Academy of Pakistan. They're doing amazing work breaking down each of those 100 articles in Greta's book.
It's a fantastic resource for anyone who wants to help build a more sustainable future.
So to wrap up our deep dive today, I want to leave you with this. Don't underestimate what you can do and what your voice can achieve. We all have a part to play in building a better future. Stay curious, stay engaged, and stay hopeful.
Remember, the future is in our hands. Let's make it one worth inheriting.